Since the Maple Leaf season has ended, there's been nothing but rampant speculation about what this team will look like next year and what changes we will see. We've now heard Leafs management to address the media and talk about the season and what we might expect from them this offseason. It seems pretty apparent changes are coming. Many believe that the core four will not return, at least the way it looks today, and a player like Mitch Marner is the most likely to be moved. Yes, he has a no move clause, but that doesn't mean they can't talk to him about waiving. And today we're going to take a look at a Sportsnet article that suggests 4 Mitch Marner trades that could help the Leafs move forward and be a stronger team in the writer's opinion. We'll discuss those deals, see what we think, and see how realistic they are coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're looking at an article from Sportsnet exploring 4 different Mitch Marner trade proposals. We do know that there's going to be significant change coming to the Toronto Maple Leafs this offseason. Now, the players that are most likely going to be talked to about being traded, unfortunately for the Leafs, do have no move clauses. They can't be too upset about that. They're the ones that gave it to them. And Brendan Shanahan, who's still there as team president, obviously played a big role in helping negotiate those contracts. So at the end of the day, they've made their bed. They need to lie in it. If guys like John Tavares or Mitch Marner do not want to waive their no move clause and do not have any intention of leaving and will not agree to any trade and will walk themselves to free agency next summer, that's completely in their power and control to do so. And it's going to be an interesting offseason to see how this plays out. We've heard some NHL insiders suggest that they will talk to Mitch Marner first and foremost about waiving his no trade clause and say, listen, basically the premise is you're 1 year away from your contract expiring. We've already decided that when that contract is up, that we cannot afford to re-sign you. We got to change up the core of this team. We need to have a different structure here to be better suited to win the Stanley Cup. So we would prefer for you just to work with us and give us some teams you'd go to so you can be traded. We can both move on, and we think it's in everybody's best interest to get a fresh start and go forth from there. And ultimately, they hope that he'll agree to that. Now, we've heard some reporters say that they believe that Mitch Marner was under the impression that last summer he was likely going to get traded, expected it to happen, and seemed to be okay with it. Now, as the more you think about it, I guess, the more you kind of come to grips with it, and you kind of hope that he's prepared to deal with that. At the end of the day, he does have control now. He did not have control then. That no move clause did not kick in until July 1st. We heard from Kyle Dubas at the end of last season after they lost in round 2 quite handily to the Florida Panthers. It sounded like Kyle Dubas wanted to make changes. He came out in his end of season press conference and said a lot of the things that we heard today from Leafs management. But they were not prepared to make those steps where Dubas was last year. So at the same time, this is probably a year too late, maybe more. But here we are. Now, I'm recording this video shortly after the Toronto Maple Leafs management press conference on Friday afternoon. I already came across the Sportsnet article the day before I kind of get into talking about it. I wanted to hear what they had to say before we get into this video. Essentially, we've heard Shanahan say that the results and the fact that they haven't won is on him. He was asked point blank, are you still comfortable that this core 4 group can win? He tiptoed around it, tap danced around it, whatever you want to call it. Did not use the word yes. They also said that anything and everything basically is on the table. New president of MLSE, Keith Pelley, was there to speak, to kind of introduce himself and to give his original thoughts. That he won't be doing that a lot, but essentially said that they need to win first and foremost. Their fans, expect, deserve, and demand a championship. And it's their job to do everything in their power and provide all the resources to make that happen. So after all the comments, it's become a general consensus that without blurting it out and saying, we're going to talk to so-and-so about trading them, that the changes are coming and that the core 4 won't be the core 4 anymore. So with Mitch Marner needing a new contract, this article has dived into 4 trade proposals that they feel make a lot of sense. And we'll look at each one. I'll tell you what I think, and I want you to leave comments to let me know what you think. Again, for those who like to leave comments and say that I have trade rumors every other day with players going to every other team. Again, it's when I explain what I do here, because I've had some heated debates and comments the last couple of days. When I talk about trade rumors and I talk about trade proposals, generally speaking, they're not my idea. I review, I research, I listen to what NHL reporters who have the intel have to say. They write the articles, they do the radio hits, the podcasts, all those things. I do all that research, and I come to compile what they say, and then I come on here and make videos and let you know, so that you don't have to do all that listening and all that reading to present you with the news. I give you my ideas, my thoughts, and then I want you to do the same. So we created a community here for discussion. That's what these videos are for, discussion amongst the hockey community. Okay? Because I get some people just love to leave those comments every day, and it kind of drives me a little bit batty. I have these, I'll reply and be like, okay, these are not my ideas. These are somebody else's ideas. I'm just talking about it and giving my thoughts. So if you want to add a comment and either agree or disagree with the concept, that's fine. But, don't attack me personally. This is not my writing. So this is Sportsnet article, Mitch Marner, 4 trade ideas. Trade number 1. The Calgary Flames, GM Brad Treliving and his former team hooking up on a deal, which I do think will be less likely. They seem to be very reluctant to deal with Brad when it came to Chris Tanev at the deadline, as well as Zadorov. I mean, they were both defensemen that the Leafs had interest in, and you got to wonder if the Leafs, in my opinion, could have matched those trade offers. I really think they didn't want to help out the former GM and help out the Leafs. So we'll see. At the end of the day, though, some of these deals will be more complicated, and obviously they will listen if it's going to make their team better, I would hope. So the Calgary Flames would trade goaltender Jacob Markstrom along with defenseman Rasmus Andersson to the Toronto Maple Leafs with a little bit of salary retention, about 25%, I believe, on Markstrom's deal, to the Leafs in exchange for Mitch Marner, Nick Robertson, defenseman Timothy Liljegren, and prospect Fraser Minten. Now, I'm not sure you have to put Fraser Minten in there, to be honest. I was a little surprised to see his name mentioned. If I'm Toronto, I don't really want to give up a couple of my top prospects like Minten or Easton Cowan. Easton Cowan was a bit of a surprise first-round pick last year, but he's had tremendous growth, tremendous development, and he's certainly nobody I'd want to move. And Fraser Minten, somebody I would feel the same way about. Obviously, getting Jacob Markstrom solidifies the goaltending. They talked in the press conference about how Joseph Walls had a lot of injury issues. They believe in him very much as a goaltender, but the injuries are a concern. It sounded like Samsonov was not going to be back. So to have a veteran goalie in there to have to work with Wall for the next couple of years, probably a great idea. Markstrom's been a great goaltender. So I do like the idea of him coming back. Rasmus Andersson provides them with a top pair right shot defenseman. Morgan Rielly can't do it all himself. Andersson can help you move the puck. He can pitch in on the offense. Decent in his own end. He's a pretty complete D who can log some big minutes. I don't know that Calgary would want to move him per se, but to get a guy like Marner coming back, you got to give up some good value. So for the Leafs to get those 2 core players and really enhance goaltending in the blue line, would be great. They would also, at the same time, they wouldn't save a ton of cap space, but they would save some, especially when you factor in the smaller contracts of like Robertson and Liljegren coming off the books here. But of course, the Calgary Flames get Mitch Marner, a high-end player to lead that offense. Clearly could play with a guy like Nazem Kadri, who he does have some familiarity with from his time in Toronto. Nick Robertson's a young player that they'd probably covet and could help, maybe get a bigger role and score some more goals. Liljegren would go on the blue line, be a younger version of some of the defense that they've lost there in Calgary that they've already moved out. And like I said, I'm not sure that Fraser Minten needs to be included, but if he is, then that's just a bigger win for the Flames on top of that. Because you got to remember, when you're trading the best player in the deal, you're quite often losing that deal. But, for me, Marner would be the best player in the deal. So obviously, that would be tough. I'm not sure why they felt the need to include Minten. So to me, it's a deal that does make sense for both sides. We know Markstrom was likely not coming back. We know that Robertson and Liljegren are kind of, I wouldn't rule out the fact that they're going to move Robertson, especially. Like he's a player that's kind of been up and down, a bubble guy, hasn't really solidified a spot, has at times, but he's shown a great ability to be able to shoot the puck and score. I would not be shocked regardless if he's linked to Marner or not, that he is moved this summer. That's a real possibility. So I do like this deal, but I would take Minton out of the deal because I don't think the Leafs need to give that up. And I do think the Leafs become a better team. They can become tougher to play against. They have solidified their goaltending position, which is a huge thing. And then at the same time, the Flames get a hugely gifted offensive player and some youth to boot. So to me, it does make some sense. Another deal involves Mitch Marner becoming a member of the Philadelphia Flyers. It's a 3-way trade with the San Jose Sharks. The Philadelphia Flyers would obtain Mitchell Marner from the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Flyers would give up Oliver Bonk, who would be flipped to San Jose. And in return, the Maple Leafs get from Philadelphia, they get Scott Laughton. And from San Jose, they get Mario Ferraro. And they also get a second-round pick. Now, to me, I know that with Mitch Marner having a no-move clause, if he said Philadelphia was a team he wanted to go to, which would surprise me, given I don't know that he would mesh well with John Tortorella. I think he would drive Torts nuts, to be honest. I don't see that being a good deal. Lawton's a good player. Ferraro's a good player, but the Calgary deal is way better than this Philadelphia deal. Philadelphia may not want to get rid of Oliver Bonk, but hey, if they're getting Mitch Marner, that's not the end of the world. You give up Bonk and Laughton. San Jose gives up Mario Ferraro but gets Bonk. Great deals for them. I don't like this deal for Toronto at all. Ferraro's a good defenseman. He would help the top four, but I think you can get better value elsewhere. Another one is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, the link here as well is that the Columbus Blue Jackets right now are without a general manager. And there's a lot of suspicion that the new general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets might turn out to be Mark Hunter. Mark Hunter, of course, currently with the London Knights. Well, where did Mitch Marner play junior hockey? The London Knights. Mark Hunter also, of course, worked with the Toronto Maple Leafs and was obviously, instrumental in helping bring Marner to Toronto. So a lot of familiarity there. Mark Hunter would be, thrilled to have Marner on his team and be his first big move if he did become GM of a new team in the NHL like the Jackets. Now, obviously, that connection could be very much in play. Going back to Toronto is Kent Johnson, very talented young player who I do think might need a fresh start. And the 4th overall pick in this year's 2024 NHL draft. Rather than the Blue Jackets draft a high-end player, they could trade for an instant impact high-end player and have a whole different concept here. Imagine Marner playing with Adam Fantilli. That could be a match made in heaven. The Maple Leafs get the 4th overall pick. Okay, so they could add a really high-end skilled player through the draft, which they haven't been able to do in some time because they've been trading first-round picks forever. And then they get Kent Johnson, who theoretically should be able to play a top 6, top 9 role for the Leafs. Or they could turn around and take that 4th overall pick and flip it to another team that wants it and get another big asset that can help them right away. Because that 4th overall pick may not play in the NHL this year. They still might need another year or two. And the Leafs are trying to win now. So as much as I do like the trade, great value coming back, I just wonder if they hold that pick or they flip it. What they could get for that pick, not really quite clear. You'd have to look at the teams that would be pretty, I don't want to say desperate, but, had a substantial motivation to want to move up in the draft. A team like Calgary, for example, is one of those teams. We heard they're very, very high in trying to get Tisha Ginla, and their picking was, I think, 9th, and he may not be there at 9, and we've heard about the Flames wanting to move up. They may not need to go all the way to 4, but still, that's a scenario where they could maybe move a guy like a Jacob Markstrom, for example. So that's a possibility. I'm not saying that, that would happen, but at the end of the day, it's great value. That 4th overall pick has high value. Kent Johnson's, to me, high value as what is he now, 21 years old or whatever he is. He's a very talented player. The 4th trade involves the Seattle Kraken. So it has Mitch Marner going to Seattle for right shot defenseman Adam Larson and Shane Wright, the former 4th overall pick from a couple seasons back. He's put in his time in the minors. He was looking real good with Seattle's top 6 there for that 7-8 game sample he got at the end of the season. Shane Wright, an Ontario kid, obviously could slide into a cheaper contract to go with their top 6 players. I think if you put him in a right role, he would thrive. I still think he shows a lot of that pedigree and skill that had him be the top ranked prospect for his draft year for an extended period of time. Yes, there were some things that scouts soured on near the end, which caused Montreal to go with Slafkovsky. But at the end of the day, he's still a really good hockey player. And they get some youth, they get much salary cap relief, and they get a defenseman too. So I like that deal for Toronto. To me, the Calgary deal probably has the most instant impact right away. I don't like the Flyers deal. So out of the 4, I'd put the Flyers deal at the bottom, and I would strongly suggest they don't do that. The Seattle trade is interesting. I do like the combo of Shane Wright, Adam Larsson. We know Seattle desperate for offense, and they could certainly use another big star to really push that team. We know they're not having trouble selling tickets, of course. They'd be reluctant to move off of Shane Wright so early in his career, but to get a guy like Marner would go a long ways. I'd probably put that deal third. I really like the Columbus one, and I really like the Calgary one. Like I said, because of the Columbus one, they either get the 4th overall pick and they can add a young player, but maybe they make that move to another team that really needs to move up and they get a star player of lower salary, different style of play that could help them now. Like I said, maybe they get, instead of doing the Calgary deal, maybe they get the 4th overall pick and Kent Johnson, flip it to Calgary and get Markstrom or something, or maybe Markstrom plus. Who knows? There's a number of other players on the Flames that could be available for trade. Andrew Mangiapane comes to mind. And there could be a few others. So, there are other moves that are there and available, and lots of other, top caliber defensemen that might be available. So the Leafs have options, and I personally would say the Columbus deal is probably number 2, just because of the uncertainty of how quickly it helps them win. Whereas the Flames deal, I think, gets them the best value to help them win right away. Now, there's a lot. We talked the other day about an Islanders trade, which could involve some potential players like a Ryan Pollock or an Adam Pelech, maybe a Brock Nelson. The Islanders are another team with the connection to Lou Lamoriello, of course, who managed and would know Marner quite well. And it is also in a position where he needs to shake up his team and needs some offense. I wouldn't rule them out of the picture. There's lots of teams that are going to be interested here. There's no doubt. But where he ends up, if it's not Toronto, it's hard to say. But let me know your thoughts on the Sportsnet article, the 4 Marner trades within it. Which one do you think makes the most sense? Or do you think there's a different one out there that makes more sense? And let me know your mock trades and what you think of this down in the comments. Again, this is not my opinion. I didn't write this article. We're just talking about it for the sake of discussion to see where we think Mitch Marner is going to end up and what kind of return the Maple Leafs could end up getting with this type of deal. So let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.